That was my first bread communion here. That's very exciting. That's an uncommon ritual. I have not seen another UU congregation do that, so thanks for sharing that with me. And thank you again to Jessica Says, one of our new members who baked the bread for us. So this morning we're talking about how food can connect us in a spiritual way to the rest of our world. When the pandemic hit in 2020, like many folks, I lost work. I was a graduate student and I was working two jobs, one with the UUA, our national organization, and that was remote, so I got to keep that one. The other job was at the Divinity School Library, which of course closed. So I was out half of my income, and as a grad student, that's a lot. So I had to turn to my community's food pantry. The food that they safely delivered was surprising in both quality and quantity. Bok choy in addition to boxed mac and cheese. However, having grown up on freezer food and microwave meals, I was a little mystified by the less processed items. Though I'm Mexican American, I realized I had no idea what to do with a simple bag of dried beans. Not a good cook. I had received generous help from the food pantry, but I needed a little bit more to make use of their gifts. And as grad students are wont to do, I began researching and found an incredible cookbook called Decolonize Your Diet: Plant-Based Mexican American Recipes for Health and Healing. In it, author Luz Calvo informed me that, quote, cooking a pot of beans from scratch is a revolutionary act that honors both our ancestors and future generations, end quote. Stuck in my house, feeling useless and small as the crises of 2020 compounded, I began to learn that food was one of the few things keeping me connected to people, power, and the planet. A few years ago, Unitarian Universalists adopted a statement of conscience. This is something we do at our annual General Assembly to make a statement as a collective faith about what we think is right and wrong. And we created one in 2011 entitled Ethical Eating. The statement explained that the current American food culture harms the environment, animals, and humanity. Of course, humans are animals, which are in turn part of the environment. So in other words, we could say that our food culture is harming Earth's entire interdependent web of being. Let's take a deeper look at these harms. First, the parts of the environment commonly considered non-sentient: the soil, water, and air. Fertilizers and over-farming degrade and erode the soil, making it harder for vegetation to take root and grow healthily. Pesticides and factory processes pollute the water. Methane and fuel emissions from our globalized food system choke the air. These in turn harm wildlife of the land, sky, and sea, increasing extinction rates and decreasing biodiversity. But our food culture most directly harms the livestock inside of it. Animals that we have given a term like livestock to make it a little less painful what we do to them. Many of us may have seen the videos of the sickening conditions that cows, pigs, and chickens are subject to in concentrated animal feeding operations, also known as factory farms. The waste from these facilities runs off to pollute the local environment. The antibiotics and hormones injected into the animals to keep them alive and profitable negatively affects the humans who eat them. And the humans directly in contact with our food production system are also harmed. From migrant farmers to slaughterhouse laborers to workers on the factory floor, illness and injury are more common than the healthcare needed to treat them. But for those of us who eat the food, the harm is no less real. In his book, Food Rules, Michael Pollan writes of two facts on which all the squabbling sides of nutrition science actually agree. Quote, fact one, populations that eat a so-called Western diet, generally defined as a diet consisting of lots of processed foods and meat, lots of added fat and sugar, lots of refined grains, lots of everything except vegetables, fruit, and whole grains, invariably suffer from high rates of the so-called Western diseases: obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cancer. Fact 2, populations eating a remarkably wide range of traditional diets generally don't suffer from these chronic diseases. End quote. The harmful Western diet disproportionately affects the poor and brown peoples to whom it is historically new. Calvo, the co-author of Decolonize Your Diet, writes that, quote, immigrant Latinas had significantly lower rates of breast cancer than US-born Latinas. Moreover, the longer Latina immigrants lived in the US, the higher their risk for developing breast cancer, end quote. In her book, Recovering the Sacred, Winona LaDuke notes, quote, by the end of the 20th century, 1 in 8 Native Americans had diabetes, a rate that is twice that of the non-Indian population, end quote. And recent reports have shown that Gen X and millennials are at significantly higher risk of colon cancer because we've grown up eating what Michael Pollan calls ultra-processed food-like substances. Food, which should be life-giving, is killing so many of us. By poisoning our food, we are harming life itself, both human and more than human. Our theme for November is repair. In the film First Reformed, a despairing environmental activist asks his pastor, will God forgive us for what we've done to this planet? For some of us, the web of being might be a more resonant idea than God. But what about forgiveness? Can the earth, the water, the plants, the animals, the sky forgive us? Can we forgive us? And before forgiveness, what about contrition? An apology is needed, with acknowledgement of the wrong, amends made, and intention set not to repeat the harm. But how can we apologize properly when I knowingly contribute to the harms every day? The magnitude of the entire climate crisis often feels far too vast and overwhelming for me amid all the other immediate cares of my life. But I think this is why the food ecosystem is key. Every single one of us thinks about and hopefully has access to food on a daily basis. We are all involved with the problem, which means each of us can affect the remedy. In the book Green Deen, What Islam Teaches Us About Protecting the Planet, Ibrahim Abdul Matin writes, quote, food is where the management of water, waste, and energy intersect to provide nourishment for our minds, bodies, and souls, end quote. It is the connection between every strand of the web, the point on which the circle of life turns. Since we are what we eat, food can help us become literally all in for climate justice. As written in Decolonize Your Diet, La comida es medicina. Food is medicine. In Recovering the Sacred, another author, Lóre, a Native American nurse and activist, writes, quote, before we can start talking about nutrition, we have to renew the spiritual connection our people had with food as a gift from the Creator, end quote. Food practices, many held holy since before recorded history, can lead us back to harmony with all that is. Unitarian Universalist efforts to slow and reverse climate change are admirable, but I wonder, where is our communal, spiritual relationship to food? Some UU congregations may celebrate Passover, have occasional potlucks, or host a farmer's market. But I will point out that there is no faith-wide understanding of that which we all share: the need for and enjoyment of good, healthy, sustainable food as a spiritual necessity for life. Lucky for us, food justice is also an incredible avenue for dismantling white supremacy, thereby making this not just a struggle against climate change, but for climate justice. Predominantly white, well-off Unitarian Universalists can support our indigenous neighbors as they fight against corporate seed patenting, overfishing, and theft of land. For example, in New York, a group of white folks purchased farmland and gifted it back to the Haudenosaunee tribe, from whom it had been stolen hundreds of years before. We can support Latinx migrant workers to gain adequate pay, citizenship, and industry standards which poison neither farmers nor consumers. We recognize that the harmful mass deportation plan of the incoming administration will decimate our food system, which relies on undocumented labor to keep it cheap. Instead, we should take care of those undocumented laborers who make our nourishment possible. As in Detroit, even food deserts can become oases of interracial coalitions for urban gardening. We can follow the lead of Jewish and Muslim communities who are thoughtful about how livestock is killed, as in the Islamic practice of humane zabiha. What might a Unitarian Universalist version of kosher look like? Think of it, a creative, intercultural food tradition of our very own, which adheres to our values. Because let's face it, the way most of us eat right now is probably not very faithful. It does not treat every person, much less all life, with inherent worth and dignity. It is neither just nor equitable. It moves us away from, rather than towards, a peaceful and free world community. And it blatantly, cruelly abuses and neglects the web of all being, of which we often forget we are a part. Now, many of us may eat as well as we can, buy locally, eat vegetarian food. Many of us may be doing these things that mitigate these harms, but I'm talking about our whole food system. This is a systemic problem, which every individual can affect with our day-to-day choices. I suggest making this a spiritual practice, a way to return ourselves to that which is of ultimate concern: well-being, family, community, and the world. You could begin with a simple spoken gratitude practice before you eat. This is what I say. I am grateful for this food, for the energy of the sun, the clarity of the water, the nourishment of the earth. I am grateful for all those who planted and harvested, processed and packaged, shipped and sold this food so that I can live another day. I will endeavor to live this day aligned with my values until all life on earth returns to mutual flourishing. You might come up with your own version and try it at Thanksgiving. I'm newly ordained, and so I'm gonna go to my stepmom's family's house and be like, "Hi, can I do the prayer this Thanksgiving?" We'll see how they like it. But there are more ways to make food a spiritual practice. ORUUC's Stone Soup and Fresh Fruit for Kids ministries are excellent examples. And of course, the bread communion we partook of today. I'm not Christian, but I do love and respect the rituals of Passover and the Eucharist that honor our food and honor how that food connects us to each other and to the divine, to the cosmic wholeness. Spiritual practices remind us of what is important, which is why almost all religions have rituals around food. I'm really excited to see that ORUUC has one. If you are fortunate enough to have access to bountiful, healthy food, it is your responsibility, as Liz and Tim sang earlier, to make sure it is accessible also to others around you. Who knows? You might even feed a hungry grad student through your local food pantry. While I am certainly grateful to the food pantry that helped me survive 2020, I do not want to live in survival mode forever. I am the mixed race, queer daughter of a divorced, impoverished Chicana mother. Chicana means Mexican American. Like many, I grew up eating as much cheap and easy food as I could get, not sure when I was going to get more. And that food, that cheap, easy food, does not play well with my system because it's not really food. I've struggled with body image issues and even an eating disorder. You could say that our culture does too. But slowly I am learning that what I eat matters on a spiritual level. Integrating with my body and being mindful with my food practices can improve my mental, spiritual, and physical health. Beyond my individual health, food practices can connect me to mi gente, my people, and the planet. I still struggle to get up the courage to boil beans. What if I don't do it right? Am I an embarrassment to my ancestors? But even so, I am committed to keep trying, because sometimes our fumbling attempts open new opportunities for connection and hope. I thanked the food pantry and told them a little bit about myself, including that I was an out-of-work grad student aspiring to properly cook beans and bok choy that they had generously given me. They invited me to be interviewed for a video fundraiser to help feed even more people in need. By honoring our food interconnectedness, both the givers and receivers of help have been able to nourish our communities. Our every molecule is composed of the air, water, and food that we take in. By these, we are related to everything else on this once and future harmonious planet. When we disregard or disrupt that sacred connectedness, we directly harm ourselves and our world. But when we honor and nourish the medicinal ecosystem of food, the soil will moisten and darken, the water will clear and flow, the air will dance and cleanse. Our beloved Earth has the capacity. It has done this before. If we restore what we have harmed, all will heal and flourish. May it be so.